I'm Suzanne, and today we're going to discuss how to find the perfect pot for your plant, whether it's indoors or outdoors. So whether it's for size constraints or whether you want to just bring some plants indoors so you can enjoy them more, finding the right pot is super important. And so we're going to discuss the different kinds of pots, the different composition, the different sizes, and all the things you should put in or around them. So most of us are familiar with the classic terracotta pot, but there are variations in terracotta. There are things like a low-fired terracotta, a high-fired terracotta, glazed terracotta. There are just a ton of choices, and wouldn't really recommend these indoors. They're very porous, they evaporate out like this, and they're not great to set on floors unless you have a really good saucer underneath. So let's just talk about some of the terracottas. We have the low-fired. This is the one that you might be familiar with. As it ages, it's going to flake apart and maybe decompose eventually. They're usually the most inexpensive and kind of the easiest to just throw around your garden. Then we have the higher fired ones. These will last a bit longer. When they're really thin like this, you want to make sure to not consider them a lifetime pot because they will eventually start to kind of flake away, but they're great for just putting around and having beautiful annual colors. This is a high-fired terracotta pot. This is good for when you want to plant a real shrub or a rose bush, a citrus tree, something like that. And of course, I just want to remind you all, in this video, just due to size considerations and me lifting, these pots come in a wide variety of sizes, and we'll be talking about those in a minute. But something like this is great. It has a ton of space for roots, it has drainage, which is really important for outdoor plants, and it's going to last quite a long time. One of the fun things about terracotta is that there are so many decorative ways you can get them. This here is a Mexican pot. It is so pretty with the fluted edges. It's not too deep. You can get a ton of these and add a lot of character to your garden. And of course, the classic shape, which is this heart-shaped one, perfect for succulents because of its limited root space area. But these are really cute to give as gifts. So after terracotta, we're going to talk about glazed pottery. Glazed is best for indoors, but of course you can use them outdoors as well. It's a great thing because they're going to last a super long time. They help keep evaporation from going out so quickly, so you don't necessarily have to water plants so often. And one of the cool things is, of course, all the beautiful colors and textures that you can get from a glazed pot. A big consideration on which pot to choose, and again, these are all relatively smaller pots. Of course, we can size up to gigantic ones that I could stand inside, but it's the plant that you choose is going to have a direct relationship with what pot you choose. A low bowl like this is perfect for planting little annuals. If you want to have just a ton of pansies spilling out of a pot, this is a great choice. This is also good for succulents. There's not a lot of root space, and so the plants can really only stay there for the amount of time that their roots can fill it up. A pot like this is actually going to be better for a larger plant. You could do a boxwood in here. This has plenty of room for the roots, and then maybe even put a little something around the edge. But if you're going to be planting trees or large shrubs or citrus or something like that, you really need to have a pot that's large enough to accommodate the roots. You don't want to have to repot every year or 2 years or something. And another really big consideration when you're doing pots is a pot like this is gorgeous. It is round, it is shiny, but the shape of it makes it very, very difficult to repot something. So when you put something in here, make sure that it's going to last forever. A shape like this is really nice. It's got these tapered insides, very easy to pull something out of and repot it. So if I can impress upon you one thing, it is the shape of the pot. You would never put a lemon tree in here. It'd be so hard to get it out of here, or a larger tree that you might want to have to root prune later. It would be very, very difficult once the soil is nice and compacted in there. So a lot of people ask, what sort of soil should I use in my pot? Whether it's indoors or outdoors, if it's just a regular plant, I'm not talking about orchids or anything specific like that, you're going to use potting soil. Sometimes you might want to add some cactus mix to help with the drainage, but for the most part, potting soil is made for pots. It's made to assist with drainage, and it's going to be the best thing for you. So, and while we're talking about putting soil in your pots, only potting soil. No rocks, no styrofoam peanuts, nothing like that. Potting soil is the best thing to help with drainage. And you can get these really cool little keeper stoppers. They're pieces of screen. You can put it over the hole in the bottom of your pot, just like this. And it's going to keep the soil from going out, and maybe even if your pots are outside, bugs from going into your pot. But this is the only thing you need to help with that drainage. If you put rocks at the bottom of the pot, the soil can actually work its way through there and form an aggregate, and then it will impede your drainage. So just potting soil all the way down. If you want, throw a little cactus mix in there to really loosen it up, but potting soil is the best. So when you have your pots ready and you're going to place them, whether it's inside your house or outdoors, really important thing to remember is exposure. So sun exposure, a lot. I would say most indoor plants do not like any direct sunlight. They want indirect light. It can be a lot of light, it can be a little bit less, but really keep in mind what your plant needs. Outdoors, if a plant is full sun, give it 6 to 8 hours of sun. If it's a shade plant, you can have morning sun, but just afternoon shade. But keep that in mind so that when you place it, it doesn't get burned or overexposed, underexposed. It's really important to know to put your plant where it belongs. So now we've come to the most important part for getting success in having plants in pots, whether it's indoors or outdoors. Outdoors, you need to have drainage. It needs to come out of the pot, onto the ground, and maybe into a saucer, but we'll discuss that in a second. Drainage is key. Plants do not like to have their roots sitting in water. So again, if you put rocks in the bottom of your pot, your plants may be sitting in water, which would make them be unhealthy, whether they turn yellow or they actually die. So drainage is the key. When they're outdoors, the best thing is just to let the water flow out of them. Make sure that they're in a place where, whether it's tile or patio or even soil, where the soil can come out of them. If that's not possible, put a saucer underneath. It can be decorative, but it does need to have enough space for you to be able to see if there's water in the saucer, because if there's water in the saucer, it's not draining out and maybe the roots are still sitting in water. So you've got to make sure that there's not too much water in that saucer. So a lot of people will use pot feet to put underneath their pots to help lift it up and give it that extra space. Maybe it's to save the tile or the brickwork that your plants are sitting on. Pot feet are a great thing. These are little plastic ones. They come in a package of 6. You take them apart, you can actually stack them up if you need them taller. But one of the really neat things is you just put it under your pot like this. And this is 6, but I'm using them stacked up like that. That is going to lift your pot up, give it enough space for the water to go through, and they're pretty invisible. I mean, that's kind of a nice thing. They come in different colors. They come in ceramic. You can get ones with lion's heads and things like that, but they really are great to help with the drainage in your pots. So with indoor plants, it's a little bit easier. We're going to work with these plastic saucers. You can see they come in a huge variety of sizes. So any pot, any size, you can get something like this. You're going to put it in here. Pretty easy, right? And then you can drop in your friend, Mr. Jacina. How easy is that? This keeps the plant's water from going out. You can keep an eye on it. You can take the plant out to water it very, very easily, or you can water it in the pot. Just again, you want to keep an eye on how much water is in here. I think it's pretty easy. If you need to, you can keep a saucer underneath it. Then it's a belt and suspenders approach to making sure no water goes anywhere in your home. So another thing that people will do to have plants indoors, if they want to actually set them in soil is to use floral foil. So this is a foil that has plastic on one side. You can line your entire pot with it and then put your plant inside here. You can also put soil in here and tuck plants all around it to give it a really nice finished look. Then when you're done, you can pull the whole thing out and switch it out for a new arrangement. So, and the last thing I want to mention, you probably noticed this with pottery, is that, again, some things can be used indoors and outdoors. Of course, a pot that has drainage can be used in either place. You can remedy that with a saucer inside. But there are some pots that you're going to find that have no drainage, and these can only be used for indoor plants. Don't try and plant anything in this and try and regulate the water. It's really, really difficult. I mean, some people might be able to do it, but it's best just to drop a little saucer in there and pull the plant out when you want to water. So when you're considering which pot to put each plant in, the size of the plant is going to determine that. You can put a lot of little 6-packs in something like this. You can put one little small shrub into something like this, or you can put a smaller plant with some little things around it in here. If you're going to be planting a tree, really consider the size of the container that you're buying the tree in. If you're getting a 5-gallon or a 15-gallon tree or shrub, you're going to size up that pot. So go at least twice as wide as the container that it's in to give it room for the roots to grow. So I hope this video helped you find the right pot for every situation in your life. If you have any questions, reach out to us on social media. Don't forget, we have a YouTube channel you can subscribe to. We have Instagram, Facebook, and rogersgardens.com for all of your shopping and plant information needs.